Good evening, boys and girls. Uh, have you noticed, Thomas, how I always go boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen? Uh,
Hmm.
we, we, we and our audience have a perfectly good idea of what a woman is.
Yes,
And welcome to Beer Blather 187. It's a mad world! But fortunately, nobody is giving me a Scottish shower. This is Saul Montes-Bradley, the largest human repository of useless information, presently taking refuge in the moon since things on planet Earth were far too fucking crazy for me. And right there, Thomas Wictor, the only living expert in World War One flamethrowers, directly from the land of Governor Gruesome and Norteño music, Mexifornia! Yes, it's there. And I think we should build a wall. Thomas, I hope that you're on this side of the wall when we do build it. And just before we start, uh, we are starting on YouBoob, which probably already didn't like the reference to Mexifornia, but hey, fuck it. And we're going to be there for a little while. And after that, uh, toodaloo, and we are in X Twitter, literally, and we're gonna be there all the time because we've decided if they don't like it, we can live without them. So fuck that too. And the main, the main line of communication is our channel in Odyssey. That is where the action is. That's where the chat is going to be. If you're in either YouTube or X and you want to participate in the chat, you have in the description right there, right below the thing, a link, and in Twitter is actually right above, a link to this program in Odyssey. So you can come in. If you don't have an account, get one, and you'll be able to participate in the channel immediately and the chat. For everybody, please remember to click on support us if you are in Odyssey, whether it is right under the video for the channel or in the chat, so that you can uh, um, show us your appreciation. And if none of those work for you, uh, quadverum.com/support us, and you can help SQV and this channel. And having said all of that, and shamefully asking you for a fortune, because, say, if you really, really want to help us, you can go to join right there, and you can join us for $2.50 per week. Imagine that. A pack of cigarettes in New York is 14 bucks. A latte in Starbucks is what now? 5, $6? Or
quite
some
sure.
other obnoxious number? Uh, you cannot even buy. God, I'll tell you what, a Whopper Jr. on sale in Burger King. Maybe.
I don't know. I
So,
don't go to Burger King. Sorry. Yeah, I don't
enough.
eat burgers very much these days. So um, I do know that when my brother and I last went, two guys paid 60 odd dollars. So, and we weren't buying, you know, colossal amounts of food.
No,
Um, but the governor,
no.
he's going to save us because he's now mandating that all fast food restaurants pay their employees $20 an hour. So
Yeah, isn't he a pitch?
that we can say goodbye to all our favorite fast food places because or they'll just that Whopper Junior will go from $2.99 to $4.99, and um,
Yeah,
Gavin,
as it is, you know that with kids, you have to occasionally go to Burger King, McDonald's, and all that shit
oh
because
yeah,
the marketing to kids is such that your children will drag you kicking and screaming into one of these. But what I've noticed is that the amount of money needed to pay for 4 meals in Borg, Boiger King or McDonald's or any of that shitty places is just about the same that you would pay at a good pizza joint or diner.
Yeah.
And,
No,
and why the crap would you do that?
when I was in the fifth grade, that's when we moved from Venezuela to Texas, and I believe I'd had McDonald's once before that. When I broke my right arm, I had to go to Miami, and I had McDonald's, and they had just, this was so long ago, they had just introduced the Big Mac. It was a brand new item, so I got a Big Mac, and it came in a paper tube that was in the whole thing was wrapped in foiled paper. It was silver foil on one side, so no styrofoam boxes or card paper boxes or anything like that. Um, but we started going to McDonald's on very rare occasions in Tyler. It was a treat, and we would get a couple of cheeseburgers each, small fries, and an apple pie. And the thing about the apple pie was that it stayed hot for like 5 hours or whatever. So, you had to be very careful not to burn your mouth on it. And we only went very occasionally as a treat. There were no little kids' Happy Meals back then. But today, I mean, okay, take your family to Disneyland. You're going to spend what, $800? I mean,
At
it's
least.
yeah.
At
Take
least. By the way, is my sound better?
it's. I have you turned all the way up. I mean, maybe you should ask the listeners how your sound level is.
Okay, well, we just did.
Okay.
You were saying, and you're absolutely correct. You take the wife and 2 kids to fucking Disneyland today, and $800 is the bottom.
Yeah, and you're going to have a horrible time because it's going to be jam packed, just like the Tokyo subway. There's going to be 3 hour waits to get on any of the rides. Um, if you want to eat something, you're going to get some horrible, tasteless garbage. Um, and it's going to be ear splitting. There's going to be music playing everywhere. When when my sister asked my brother and me to accompany one of her nephews to Knott's Berry Farm because she said he didn't have any friends. So we went there. He spent the whole time with his friends. There was no reason for us to go. And there was so much music playing at such a volume that we we could not stand it. And we finally found the one place in the park where the foliage blocked out the music, and that's where we spent the whole time. Um, we tried to get something to eat, and every single restaurant had the same menu: hamburger, cheeseburger, French fries, cokes and shakes, and I think that was it. And they were playing ear-splitting music inside the eateries, and it was a nightmare. It was just this horrible dystopian future where, um, and my sister gave my nephew $100 spending money, and he blew it on trinkets, like a Daniel Boone rifle that was made of plywood. It was about this long, and it was just an outline. It was like it was unfinished. It was like they just took a machine and went
Yeah,
and that was like $25 or something. And but it was horrible. Disneyland the last time I went
I,
was
I, I was gonna say when you said $800, that's the baseline. By the
exactly
time you're done with meals and all that shit, It's more like 1,500.
Same with movie theaters. Anywhere you take your family that you used to take your family is too expensive in California,
Yep.
and jacking up the prices for. I mean, I think I told you my brother got a hankering for Burger King, so we went to Burger King. We waited in line at the drive-through for over 10 minutes. It was probably closer to 15 minutes. No response. So we just drove by, drove out, and then found another one, and that one served us like that. But so those people are all going to get $20 an hour to do nothing. Um, and this is collapsing. Did you see Trump came to Los Angeles and he was welcomed by maniacally enthusiastic supporters in Los
Yep.
Angeles?
Well, there are three kinds of people in Los Angeles. By the way, I keep fiddling with the sound.
Yeah, it's
So, is it better?
yeah. I can turn my volume back to normal now.
Oh, then it is good. I finally hit the right note. Uh, there are three kinds of people in Los Angeles. A vast majority of the population are fucking idiots. Then you have, of course, the spaced out drug addicts and schizophrenics on the streets. And then you have a relatively small number of sane people who by now must feel just like Charlton Heston in Planet of the Apes,
Yeah,
which is your idea for today, which led us to this.
yeah,
It's a bad world,
yeah.
because frankly, that's what it is.
It is, and
And Los Angeles more than any other place
no, and
in the
Los
planet.
Angeles is going to get much worse. It's you thought San Francisco was bad. Los Angeles has a potential of bypassing San Francisco because we have tons more illegals here. Okay, the neighbors are having another party tonight. Um, I finally did call the cops, and they told me that they're not violating any sound ordinances. It's just that they have such good music speakers that it just sounds loud. So in other
Oh,
words, they told me to cram it.
it's very low volume, but it's such good quality. It sounds
Yeah,
loud.
yeah.
Where the fuck do these people come from?
These are cops. All our sheriffs are now drastically overweight because all the good ones have left. They've gone to other states. Um, so we have 300 pounders waddling around. I mean, they're not going to run after anyone. And I could hear them all jabbering in Spanish to them. Every one of those people next door speaks fluent English, um, but they had to talk in Spanish because that's, oh, mi corazón. And, they're basically on the side of the people making my life untenable here. And, they had their grill fired up. These are all people who aren't going to live to be 60 years old. I mean, their
Well,
lifestyles are they're all going to be gone, and they have no
well,
aspirations. All they want to do is do very low level menial work, um, eat, drink beer. They one of
yeah,
them.
but I'm sorry, but fat consolation that they're not gonna live long, because they're gonna make your life miserable until they die young.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I'm going to get out of here as soon as I can. Right now, um, I'd hoped that we'd have things cleared up more, but instead of doing that, my brother decided to buy two cars and spend all his time working on them and then figuring out how to transport
The
them. And then
fiend.
after he's got three more cars to transport, and after that's all done, then we'll take care of the warehouses. So I'll be here another year or two, and you know, whatever is, I've I've faced a lot
Well,
in my life.
you'll be there. You'll be there long enough to verify that Beijing Diane's replacement is off to a good start.
No, I mean, okay, there is not a single other politician in the country right now who gets the same reception that Trump does. And you and I were talking about this stupid fraud case and the various other cases where they're charging a lawyer for conspiracy for writing a legal opinion, not even
Oh, yeah.
and it was a legal opinion for Trump to not do something. So he gets charged with conspiracy anyway. I mean, this is
The best one is that the guy they just gave a a deal to, one of the 19 indicted with Trump, who was indicted for an. I know this sounds ridiculous, but I have to say it. Writing a draft letter that was never sent,
yes,
which his bosses, he showed it to his bosses. They didn't quite agree with it. So somehow it got to Trump. So Trump called this guy and his bosses to the Oval Office, wherein they discussed whether it was proper or not to send the goddamn letter. And they decided, and they decided means Trump decided, we're not going to send it.
yeah,
Pack it in. We're not going to do it. So the guy gets indicted for not sending the letter.
yeah.
Now he gets a deal where all of the big felonies, racketeering, what was it, conspiracy to do this, conspiracy to do that, they were all pled to misdemeanors. They gave him 5 years suspended sentence if in 5 years he doesn't manage to get himself in jail. Say if you're going to rob a supermarket, do it in California. And then everything is erased. But wait a fucking second. By the way, his point all the time is that he was acting as an assistant or deputy attorney in the Department of Injustice,
Yeah.
and that he cannot be tried by a regular chicken shit Georgia court because he was a federal government actor, so he can only be tried by the federal government. So they say, no, we're not going to let you go to the federal government, to the federal court, because you acted on your own initiative. And he says, fuck that. I was acting as an attorney in the Justice Department, and in fact, this got all the way to the president. Oh, well, in that case, we need to know the content of the communications between you and the president. No, you can't fucking have it.
And so they.
It's no business of a Georgia court what is said in meetings between officers in the executive power.
Well, if you look at what you just said, they made all these threats and told him he had to do this, that, and the other, and then they ended up giving him a plea deal that's going to expunge his record after 5 years.
Yeah.
So,
but the thing is, they haven't made up their minds, because if he was acting as a under the color of his office in the Injustice Department, then he ought to be tried by the federal court.
yeah.
But if he, as the prosecutors insist, was acting in his own personal capacity, then where the fuck is the conspiracy?
Well, there is no conspiracy, and they basically let him go. They basically let him go because
Yeah.
they didn't have anything.
They don't for any of them.
No.
Now we know that the reason they indicted Sidney Powell is because apparently she asked somebody to hack the election machinery in order to look for proof that fraud had been committed. Now, the funny thing is that the election equipment is supposedly not connected to the internet.
And it's supposedly unhackable.
And it's impossible to hack something that is not connected to the internet, and it is in fact illegal to connect it to the internet. So, how could Sidney Powell have anybody hack into a machine that is not connected to the internet?
Yeah, I mean, okay, we can sort of jump around tonight because in the theme of it's being a mad world, we have the Trump trials, the indictments. That's all completely crazy.
The mad world, yes.
We have the president undergoing physical therapy to make sure he can walk without falling down.
Yeah, but there is a Laszlo therapy to make him think.
No, but as long as he can walk, then we don't need him to think. We have the Serbians sure looking like they're going to take on basically NATO, because NATO is still responsible for protecting Kosovo. The British.
Yep. There are, for people who don't know, there are NATO troops in Kosovo as peacekeepers.
There are NATO troops, and the rumbles are that they've already sent the NATO's got a special term for it, for lack of for not knowing that term, the Rapid Response Force.
Yeah,
could be up to 40,000 men and women. The Serbs,
I think by the way, they do call it Rapid Deployment Force.
Deployment Force, yeah, and the Serbs are crazy to think that they can launch a full war against Kosovo without there being repercussions. There's that. There's the
Azeris just kicked Armenia out of Nagorno-Karabakh.
Yes, that's pretty crazy considering that this thing had been going on since what, 1994?
But you and I predicted a year and a half ago that if Russia kept, getting its ass kicked in Ukraine, some things were going to happen. One of them was Georgian ogling Abkhazia and Ossetia again, Azerbaijan ogling Nagorno-Karabakh. Everybody who's been held at bay by the might of the Russian Empire is about to shake it off.
What about
Moldova? And the Azeris just did.
Moldova will follow. They've got the Russians in part of their country.
Oh, they're going to kick the Russians out of Transnistria any moment now, and they are already in talks with Romania, and it's of course, the Azeris were already armed to the teeth. The Moldovans aren't. Some are going to take a little while longer. But the point is, nobody is afraid of the big bad wolf anymore.
No. Russian propaganda is now saying that, I heard two things that are totally crazy. One is that we're past the point where we need to use tactical nukes to make a statement. Now we have to use strategic nukes to show everybody that we're serious. And that's the end of Russia. It's not the end of us, because given how horrible their hardware is, I have no doubt whatsoever that we can intercept all their nukes on the initial arc.
Before they leave the silo, if you ask me.
Exactly. So we have that jibber jabber. We have people claiming that, okay, that the government to avoid a shutdown, they had to pass an emergency budget that'll tide us over for 45 days. But there's no support for Ukraine. Well, the Ukrainian support, I mean, they got 300 million in June. The last time we came close to something like this, the Pentagon suddenly announced that they found $6 billion. Remember that? Also, the Ukrainians have got their F-16s, they've got the training, and they've got the Abrams tanks. They're going to be fine for the next 45 days. And the Congress has already said they're going to have a separate vote on Ukraine in the next few days. So,
Yep. The Europeans have just agreed to pony up into a common kitty to send them 1 million artillery rounds.
yep, which is, it's okay. We send them smart. We send them the Excalibur, I think it's called. It's a smart 155 millimeter round. The cluster munitions are very effective,
Yep.
but the sheer raving panic that back when I was on social media, every day people would come running in panic to me to like calm them down because they'd read something somewhere, and instead of like thinking about it or looking through it, doing their own research, they had to come to me, and then I had to tell them, settle down, everything's okay. Oh boy, I thought this was really it. I mean, when has it really been it? It wasn't even it during World War II. It wasn't it during the Cold War. This is it. We had some close nuclear calls during the Cold War, but the point is the system always worked.
None too close. I mean, people like to exaggerate the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. We were never even remotely close to nuclear war. The Russians never actually sent nuclear weapons to Cuba.
Well, Khrushchev didn't want a nuclear war.
No. And he certainly didn't want the fucking Cubans laying hands on it.
Yeah.
Because Khrushchev's mistrust of Castro was legendary. So they sent some, empty tubes. They looked like missiles, but they had no nuclear warheads. So and by the way, that was one of the biggest games of chicken that I have seen.
Yeah.
And Khrushchev got Kennedy to accede to the withdrawal of American nuclear weapons from Turkey.
Yeah.
By playing a pretend game in Cuba. And people today speak of that as if we were a half an hour from glowing in the dark. It's bullshit.
Well, see, it's impossible. It's not impossible. It's very hard to ever find the facts on things like that, because every so-called historian has an agenda. They either love Kennedy or they hate Kennedy, or they love Khrushchev or they hate Khrushchev, or they just have that need to rile everybody up. And just the Gulf of Tonkin incident. If you look into it, you see that there were no lies told. The only thing that happened was people didn't have the balls to tell the president, we fucked up. We didn't. There was no second gunboat attack. That was an echo from our radar system, and Johnson had set everything in motion, and now it's interpreted as it was a false flag in order to.
Aren't you sick and tired of the false flag, black hat morons?
considering that there's only a handful of real false flags that have been carried
Hmm.
out, the Nazis started their pretext for invading Poland in 1939 was a false flag operation called Operation Himmler, where they got concentration camp victims to dress in Polish army uniforms, and then they mowed them down. And then they brought in the press and said, "See, look, the Poles invaded." And
I saw that in South America with the military dictatorships uh, all too frequently
yeah,
staging battles with uh, guerrillas, and in fact, killing a few students, and then creating a heck of a lot of noise, and throwing the cadavers around, and claiming that they died in battle when they were in fact executed. It's
yeah,
amazing how many people died in battle against the Argentine army or navy in La Plata or Buenos Aires, and consistently all the dead had a couple of bullets in the back of their heads.
well, the Argentinian soldiers were trained marksmen who always aimed for the back of the head.
Yeah, well, not this. Yeah, yeah. No, oh, you're being. Yeah, precisely. You
But
almost had me there.
the sort of false flags that the nutters talk about are the false flags that start major conflicts, or that 9/11 was a false flag,
Yeah,
because and nobody's
and
ever
and and by the way, prepare for what's coming,
what.
because Al Qaeda is back up and running,
Oh yeah,
and the graduates of Guantanamo, the people that we released from Guantanamo, are now in top positions in uh, Afghanistan's Taliban government, are aching for a fight,
yeah, yeah.
and we left about 7 billion worth of missiles in there, and those things, they're not going to throw them at us from Afghanistan, but they're very easy to pull apart, and considering how porous our southern border is, and considering how many thousands of these asshats are already in the U.S., um, there was an article in an Al Qaeda magazine that we commented a few weeks ago, speaking of uh, attacks in the U.S. that were going to make 9/11 look like a rehearsal. Now we know a little bit more, and we know that they're targeting schools,
Yeah,
churches,
yeah,
and the Freedom Tower in New York.
yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they targeted the Sears Tower in Chicago just as a number two. Uh, can you imagine what would happen in this country if 70 big bombs blew up an equal number of schools from New
Well, see,
York to LA?
okay, these people, Al Qaeda and the Taliban, they overestimate. I mean, okay, they're just like the Russians. They lose. They delude themselves. They think that again. I mean, I heard all this nonsense about how, oh, we played right into Bin Laden's hands by invading Afghanistan. Yeah, yeah, because
No, but we played into the Taliban's hands by abandoning
yeah,
Afghanistan.
exactly. I mean, it's these guys think that if they do enough damage, then America will surrender to them. They actually believe that.
Yeah.
And of course, it's never going to happen. And okay, we saw that. Are we still on YouTube?
Hold on, not for long. That question says all I need to know. To the
Yeah.
kind people who are watching us in YouTube, and oh my God, there is a crapload of messages in YouTube, and I do appreciate all of that, but we only uh, read and follow the chat in our Odyssey channel. So if you guys want to chat with us, move on come over to Odyssey. The link is right there for this particular show, and then you know the way. And as of now, since we are about to enter the adult swimming hour, and there is no room for you boobs kindergarten censors. So, bye bye, you boob. Come over to Odyssey and continue watching us. Thank you so much. And let me see. You're gone.
Okay. What I was going